For the last 8 years, I've been drawing the same illustration over and over again to track my progress and my regressions when it comes to my art style and my art skills. While I show you my latest illustration, I'm going to talk about what's changed, what's better, what's worse, and what's going to happen in the future. Alright, step one, we got to start with a sketch. I don't think I can be fully honest about this illustration if I don't mention that I didn't really want to do it. Like, I knew in the back of my mind that I was going to, and I was like, oh, well, that's just something that happens at the end of the year. But the closer I got to it, and the more inevitable it became, the less interest and inspiration I had to actually sit down and draw this thing. One of the biggest things that I think has changed just to me as a person is that I don't have an interest in drawing mainstream characters that everybody knows anymore. My love for these movies and these stories that got me through difficult times in my life don't resonate with me anymore. And a big reason for that is probably just because I'm not 14 anymore. And growing up sucks. You get boring. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up, not to just put a little poop in your parade, but I think it does show in the final illustration that I didn't give it my entire love and affection. Which I will talk about much later when I start talking about things that have improved and things that I have maybe regressed with. But this brings me into step 2, which is the second sketch layer. This is something I religiously do if I want my drawing to turn out when it comes to digital art. It's something I need to work a little bit on when it comes to traditional art, which you can do. But basically, use your first sketch layer for blocking everything out, making sure it fits on the page, right? And then you lower the opacity of that layer and you start drawing on top of it, finding all your details, figuring out which lines you like, and finally getting that grasp of what the illustration is probably going to look like when you're done. Now you gotta be careful because the more sketch layers you do, the stiffer the drawing is going to be, especially if you're not paying attention. It's really easy to go overboard. Just make sure you're using this opportunity to experiment. And I realized that I hadn't drawn a second arm there, so I put just a quick swoop of a hand and then threw Pascal up there too, because I think I included him last year. I played around with a couple different skirt ideas, but none were quite clicking, mostly because I didn't include them in that first sketch layer. So now trying to do them as an afterthought was definitely looking like an afterthought, if you know what I mean. So I ended up keeping it pretty simple. I know older drawings in the past have been a little bit more bouncy and fluid, and I think this really comes down to me not feeling the inspiration when it came to this piece. So I ended up like resorting to my go-to pose, which is just standing there. Whenever I draw any character, I think the face is usually what gets the most overhaul throughout the process of me creating the character. And this drawing was no exception. And I've been doing a lot of portraits lately, just studying from reference and things like that in my own time. And I think I'm slowly getting a little better grasp in my mind's eye of like where features have to go to make logical sense. Like obviously they can be different distance apart and different sizes, but there's a certain amount of like reality that you kind of need to stick to that's going to help your drawing feel more alive. And I definitely think this sketch benefited from my most recent studies. One of the final things I did was draw in her hair. I usually draw her hair up in a braid, and I'm gonna be honest again. I always did that because I was too lazy to draw all the hair, okay? I was like, oh, if I put it up in a braid, it's gotta be shorter, right? So to make up for the very solid pose, I thought, you know, why don't I give this drawing a good send-off and actually draw closer to 70 feet of her hair. And it's actually kind of fun, like thinking about the hair and how it would flow and how it would roll over itself and twist. And I tried to break it down into like a simpler blob so that I could add in all those swishes, if that makes sense. Which brings us to step 3 of this drawing, which was my painting detour. Now this step doesn't show through in the finished illustration, but it did make a big difference on how the finished illustration ended up looking. Now how are those two sentences different? Let me tell you. So I mentioned I've been doing portrait studies, drawing lots of faces and painting them. I don't know if I said I was painting them, but I was. So I had this desire to try and paint Rapunzel's face, not from reference because I haven't done that in a while. So here's just a little bit of footage of me trying that out. And what I've realized is by doing these facial studies in the last couple of weeks, I've gained a certain amount of new skills that have allowed me to look at a drawing and recreate it. So because I started painting Rapunzel's face, it put me back into that place of when I'm trying to do a portrait study. And my brain turns into portrait study mode and started like analyzing the way Rapunzel looked. If you look at the face, it is like so generically what my style looks like right now, which is kind of perfect if we're trying to like milestone my art for the year of 2019 and put it in a little capsule. But that doesn't mean it necessarily looks like the character Rapunzel. I took a peek back at the comments from last year's video. I noticed the most common critique was that the face didn't look like Rapunzel, which was really odd to me because it was supposed to be in my style and I didn't really want it to look like the Disney art style. So I kind of chalked that up to just being like, oh, well, it's because it's my style, right? But in doing this painting study, which it doesn't actually show through in the painting, I just realized because I just watched this through and none of the things I learned while painting actually kind of show up. But Rapunzel has very thin eyebrows. She never smiles showing her teeth. And when she smiles, her eyes squint a little bit. And then I also like kind of realized what her nose looks like and it wasn't quite right when I was painting it originally. And these are all things that are more unique to Rapunzel than maybe my drawings of her in the past. So when it came to step 4, which was the line art, I lowered the opacity of all previous layers and started adding in the line art with this newfound knowledge of staring at Rapunzel's face for too long. I went in on the face first so that I wouldn't forget all this stuff, and I really tried my best to make my illustration look like Rapunzel. Now I do think that this made my art style look a little bit more similar to like the Disney animated art style than maybe it has in the past, which I'm okay with for one reason, and that is because I was trying to make it look like Rapunzel, so it's still in my art style, but it's like closer to looking like Rapunzel, so I guess that's Here's when you see I close her mouth and make it wide. She has a very like short, wide, closed smile, and it stretches really far across her face. So I included that, and like instantly I was like, holy, it looks so much more like her. And then the final touch, the thing that made it go boop, yeah, it's Rapunzel now, was when I added her eyebrows. I love drawing thick, bushy little caterpillar eyebrows, but Rapunzel doesn't have those. She has very thin, almost line-like eyebrows, which I think is harkening back to like the classic Disney Renaissance style. So I decided to do that, and yes, now I think this actually looks like Rapunzel. At least closer than any past attempts. Then the rest of the line art, I don't think anything too spectacular happened. I did make sure I kept shrinking her face because every time I like add something to it, I feel like it gets bigger, so I have to keep shrinking it, and it ends up looking bigger and bigger. So I tried my best to keep it kind of small. When it comes to digital art, it's a little bit easier than traditional art because you can't just grab it and shrink it. But it still ends up looking big when I do digital art, so what am I talking about? This hand right here, I was super nervous about because the sketch was almost illegible. But after going over it with my painting layer, I was able to kind of like look at it from a different approach and chisel out the shapes a little bit easier and kind of mold it in a way. So then when I came in with the line art, I just had to follow the forms that I had created earlier. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm just really glad I took that little painting detour. I think it helped me really analyze the illustration in a 3D space and understand how these 2D objects that I'm drawing could exist on a 3D plane, which overall I think helps the 2D drawing look much better. Then there's a skirt. I've drawn better skirts. I'm a little disappointed in myself on that one. Then Pascal, I vowed to come back and change him. I don't change him that much. Well, this is different than previous illustrations. I think only one time before I did it this way, but I usually use layer styles, so I draw with a white brush and then I add layer styles to it, so there's like a thin black line around all of the white strokes that I draw. But this time I drew in every little lace. It gets a little lazy at the end. That top there, that's my favorite part. But yeah, I just go through from top to bottom, add in a bunch of laces. I think because there are just so many and it's all about the texture that it doesn't look too bad. Oh, here's my lame attempt trying to fix Pascal. All right, add that to the list of resolutions. Draw more chameleons. The next step would be coloring, but I want to take you on another detour. This one is not part of the illustration, but it is part of my life. So basically, I mentioned that I didn't really want to draw Rapunzel, and I was just like, well, what can I do that would be similar, but would fit more the vibe I'm going for, and like, I don't know, be the best of both worlds. So what I thought would be interesting is if I designed my own princess character based off of prompts that I picked from Rapunzel. So if you look at Rapunzel or her movie, you'll know she's an artist, she has long hair, and she longs for adventure. Those are kind of like 3 important character elements. So I thought, why don't I try to draw a character with those 3, prompts? I had a lot of fun with this. This is definitely a little bit more up my alley and something I definitely want to continue to do a lot more of in the future. And I really played around with like colors and different hairstyles, and I looked through Pinterest at like references of historical costumes and dresses and things like that. And these are much simpler sketches, they're more concept-y, trying to figure out what might work, what won't work, and trying to find a color scheme that like looks nice together. I was really trying to stay away from the purple pinks. I really like the way this illustration turned out. It has all the regalness and the long hair that I wanted, but it was missing a little bit of that artistic touch. So this next sketch, I really focused on what would an artist look like? What would a princess artist look like? So I gave her a big poofy dress, and of course the nice giant palette and a paintbrush, and then I tried to tuck her hair up and out of the way, and she has a ton of it. So that was a bit of an adventure itself, which I guess fits into the theme. When I got down to her skirt, I realized there's a reason princesses in movies have like slim, slightly short skirts, even though it's not the most medievally, historically accurate dress ever. It's because these girls are adventurous and they need a little bit of mobility. So this was not working for my princess either. So my solution to this problem was to just not draw her lower half at first. And I really like the way the lines on her bodice and her shoulders turned out in this drawing. And I took it to kind of like look a little bit like an apron that she had tied around her waist, and it like comes up a little bit higher. And so she's tied it really tight so that it doesn't slip down. And this would protect her dress from, the oil paints. This drawing I sadly forgot to record, but here's where I shortened the dress, tried to come up with one that would fit into a more adventurous lifestyle. I also gave her the paint palette again and the giant paintbrush, but this time when I used like the drop cloth to keep her hair up, it looked like a chef's hat, and I don't know, I was not feeling that. No. And so this was my little adventure into designing my own sort of Rapunzel character based off my own prompts that I pulled from the movie, Nothing too perfect here, just a lot of fun exploration. Although, I really like that drawing right there. Alright, the line art is done. It is time for step 4, which is color. The way I like to add color is to just use the magic wand tool, select outside of my line art, and if you've connected all your lines, it'll only select outside of the line art. Then I inverse that selection, and then on a layer underneath the line art, I just use the paint bucket tool and I dropped a nice little baby pink in there. So now there is a solid color behind all the line art, only where the character is. And you can erase little sections if you accidentally filled in extra. And then above that layer, I create a new layer. And this layer I set as a clipping mask, so I cannot paint outside of the pink layer even though it is a second layer. It is masked and connected to the layer below it, and I can start adding in the colors. I do have to hand draw these all in, but if there's sections that aren't connecting with any other sections of the drawings that are a different color, like the hair down at the bottom, I can just swipe over that and paint outside the lines and it stays inside. I also added a small amount of shading to the hair. I wasn't sure how I was going to approach shading, if it was something I was going to do after I added all the colors, or if I was going to do it on a color by color basis. So I kind of just wung it. I also locked the transparent pixels on the line art layer and then painted over the line art with a color that complemented the hair color a little bit better. And I also colored over the eyebrows with that as well. And then for the face, I added a decent amount of blush, and I kind of went a little bit painterly on it. As soon as I realized I was doing that, I tried to subdue myself. I was like trying to pull back, lighten the colors a little bit more. But I also think it kind of captures the year, so I kept it. And then after I was done with the face, I realized the skin tone didn't match the rest of her body anymore because there was so much more shading and depth to it. So I had to go through and do the same with the body. And I just had to do that one hand. And for a hand that I was so nervous about drawing, I think it turned out pretty good. And I could probably attribute those results to the fact that I drew it so many times and also painted it. All right, skin and hair mostly done. I moved on to the clothes and coloring in the skirt. Again, I just kind of pick a generic purple color, similar enough, start working on that, and from there I adjust the colors accordingly. Also on new layers, I added all of the texture and the things that make it look more like Rapunzel and not just random princess. And also a bit of a lazy attempt at shading. Again, not my best skirt. I am kicking myself in hindsight, let me tell you. Then for the corset area, I did the same thing, picked a purple color, then adjust the colors afterwards, trying to get them to look nice with the skirt. Once I had one that I liked, I went in and started adding in the other colors, like texture and stripes. I also shaded this area. I tried to make it look closer to the way she looks in the movie. I have this like gut instinct to just draw a line from one boob to the other and then shade there. But I did my best to not give her a uniboob. You're welcome if that's something that has bothered you for the last 8 years. This is really the first time I've ever really thought about it. So I guess it wasn't bugging me. Then I did the fun job of coloring in all the laces, and since I didn't use layer styles, these weren't their own separate layer, so I had to actually go in and color in the line art like a pleb. Then I went in and added in some more texture. This is something I think I started doing back in like 2015, and I haven't really been keeping up with it, but I love the way it makes digital art look. If you just create a very simple pattern and make it repeat and go over the entire section of a certain amount of color, I don't know. Especially princesses. Oh, it makes them look so much more expensive and more royal, I guess. But, ooh, just look at that extra woomph. I think I set it to multiply and then like tweak the opacity, just get it subtle but obvious. You know, that happy medium between those two words. Those are polar opposites, aren't they? Well, and then I also colored in pastel and tweaked his line art, made his nose a little bit brighter. I was looking at a reference and I realized this front of his face is like a light color when he's green. And I took some of the green from pastel and added it to Rapunzel's eyes because she does have green eyes. But it just looked too far from my style because I tend to just draw people with black pupils. So I made it much more subtle and almost black. And I think it fits more into my style. I'm not ready to commit to colored pupils, okay? I used to do that way back in the day, and I've streamlined my art process. Cut out one step, coloring the eyeballs. One of the final things I did was try to make like the lantern was glowing. This was a bit of a mistake because this is something I really should have focused on from the beginning. And if I had painted through the whole drawing, I would have realized this before I added in the line art and the color and everything, but I should have colored it as if the lantern was glowing. So here I am at a little bit of an attempt to add it in post, which might not have turned out perfect, but I love the way the like bright hair strands look, so I end up incorporating that like down and below and around the rest of the hair, which I think ended up looking really pretty. I also added in a super simple background just to give her a little bit more atmosphere around her, and so that I could add a gradient behind the lantern to make it look like it was glowing as well. Added a little bit of a noise filter just to give the drawing texture and look a little less artificial. And yeah, that's my drawing for 2019. Yes, it's 2020 now. I'm a little behind. Thought I had freckles. Where are the freckles? Oh, there they are. That's way too many. Why did I put that many freckles in? What was I thinking? I'm cleaning them off. There we go. That's way better. Forgot about that. Anyway, this is the finished illustration right here for 2018. You can see the past illustrations, and you can actually watch a video of me commentating over each of them back when I was making them. Not only will the art get older, but I will get younger. Sounds like a cringe fest. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what your 2020 art resolutions are. My 2020 art resolution is to do more studies and less just mind barf onto my sketchbooks. Like, I want to put in time where I'm consciously trying to improve something, and I think that's gonna go a long way. I don't have any specific parts that I want to do better, so it's just like, I'm not gonna limit myself to anything specific. It's just whatever I'm feeling inspired at the time, but find a reference. yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys all next week, and I hope you have a delicious evening full of waffles. Bye!